Fayant. Monday morning. Happy Monday morning to everybody. So, we're here today to talk about insulin resistance and all the things up above that maybe you're struggling with and haven't found answers for, because most of us are in that position, right? Where we're struggling with a number of these things, any one of these, and nobody's telling us that they're all connected. Nobody's telling us that if all of these things are going on with you, there's likely one thing causing you to be ill that's really simple to take care of and fix. Oh, maybe I don't have sound over there. We'll see here in a second. But anyway, so you guys, where are y'all from? I'm coming here from Maryland this morning, learning a lot about this state. I've been here for a year, but I love it. We had an amazing little community trick or treat thing where the kids, there was like over 1,500 kids on the small old town streets of Bel Air. They were all dressed up, and the merchants are so kind, and it's just an amazing, amazing place to live. So I'd love to know where you guys are from, and welcome in. Let's start talking about all of this stuff. If you guys have questions about it, let me know, because there are some things that seem unrelated, right? Like gout and maybe acne or excess weight, but they're all very much related to insulin resistance and what happens in your body. So I'm going to go over that, what insulin resistance is, why it's causing problems in your body, and how we can get over it. Then I'm going to share with you how I did, because almost everything on this list I suffered from 2 years ago, and except for Parkinson's, and I've gotten better. So, and I've reversed my diabetes, I've reversed my hypertension, and a number of the things on this list, and it got me off of 10 different medications. If we understand what insulin resistance is, we can understand that it doesn't take medications to correct it. So let's dive in, and I'm going to encourage you to ask questions, make comments, as long as they're respectful, guys. Okay? This is not the channel for all the pissiness that goes on out there in the internet. We're just not having it. So, you guys, insulin resistance. When we hear this word all the time, and doctors are not talking about it enough, but they're starting to. Okay, they've known. Would it be surprising to you that science has known for over 20 years that insulin resistance is behind all of this, and yet it's not being taught to our doctors, and our doctors aren't talking to us about it, so we're sick. But on top of that, we have a food industry that is continually modifying and changing our food and then marketing it to us as healthy or better than, because they added a little extra fiber, they added a little extra iron, they added a little extra something. And in reality, good morning, James. In reality, what's happened is they've changed our food so much. It's 8 a.m. over here. So they've changed our food so much that it no longer is recognizable to our body in the way that we need it to be, to give us nourishment, to help us be healthy. That's part of the reason why we have inflammation, and we have brain fog, and we have joint pain. I'm going to be doing videos all week on joint pain. We should be about 8 hours apart, James. James is in the UK, by the way, for everybody reading his messages. So yeah, it's 8 a.m. So it's only noon where you're at. It should be. Oh, it's midday then. You know what, I'm on now, and I used to be on the West Coast, so that's probably why my brain hasn't made that switch yet. Yeah. So you guys, all of this food that we're eating that's imperfect is contributing to the problem. But then the other part of the problem is that the food industry has taught us to eat every 2 hours. James has lost 135 pounds. I need to get new pictures of you, James. I need to update on everybody, because the guys are doing amazing stuff. James has been consistent for over a year now, and it's changed his life. His sleep apnea is gone. He's lost over 135 pounds. He looks like a whole different man. I have your before picture, but I need a current after picture of you. 21 inches off of his waist. He's come off of his blood pressure meds. CPAP and no longer suffers with hidradenitis suppurativa. So, you guys, I should know that name. James, put it in layman's terms because I forget what that one is. Hidradenitis. I should know that, but I have a block this morning. All right, so one of the things that makes me absolutely insane when I see it on social media and there's a lovely lady who plays her videos all night long, and she's constantly telling you to eat every 2 hours. And that's wrong. There's no, it's a skin issue, isn't it, James? Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. I remember now. Okay. Yeah. Very painful. But you guys, who taught us, who started saying things like breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Does anybody know where that saying came from, where it actually originated from? Can anybody tell me? Do you guys know where breakfast is the most important meal of the day actually came from? Does anybody know? Because I'd love to see if anybody knows this one. It's not where you think it came from. Does anybody have any clue as to where that came from? Because I didn't. Like, look, some of this stuff, you guys, I didn't know. So I started getting my health under control and was like, wow, what's going on here? So I'm going to tell you, it was from a food company. And the most important meal of the day, that saying came from the company that makes cornflakes. There's that too, but that saying, I get sick if I don't eat, weak and sweaty, but cold at the same time. Yes, let's talk about those blood sugar issues. Jane Milburn over on Facebook absolutely got it right. Cornflakes, they were making new cereal to market it. It wasn't selling as quickly as they wanted. So they were like, how are we going to get this to sell? So they came up with the phrase that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now, for some people, breakfast is the most important meal, right? And break fast and breaking your fast is the most important. But does break fast have to happen at 6 o'clock in the morning or at 7 o'clock in the morning? Riddle me that. Does it have to happen within 12 hours of your last meal? Is that when break fast should be happening? Is it actually a morning meal? What does break fast mean to you, or breakfast? So Riley on YouTube. So she gets sick if you don't eat, weak and sweaty. But yeah, so what's happening is we're gonna take a couple steps forward and then I'll take a couple of steps back. because I want to answer Riley. So when we have this thing called insulin resistance going on in our system, it means we have too much insulin. So I'm going to take a couple of steps back because it just doesn't make sense without it. But when we're eating all of this food and we're eating constantly and we have all of that going on, our blood sugars go up, right? So sugar in the blood is just energy that needs to be delivered. I want you guys to think about that. Don't get confused about all the terms that everybody wants to use and say, just know that blood sugars just mean it's energy that needs to be delivered. Your body needs energy to function. But when we have too much sugar in the blood, it only needs to have about a teaspoon in the blood. And when we have more than that, the body cues the pancreas to create a hormone called insulin. Now your insulin goes up to come out and deliver that sugar that's in the blood because you ate food. And the sugar isn't just from sugar, guys. It's from your proteins, it's from your vegetables, it's from your fruits, it's from all of that. It takes all of that and starts to deliver it to the body. But when we're eating every 2 hours, when we're eating all of the stuff, then we have this high insulin all the time. Now, insulin doesn't like to come down very quickly because it's going to say, well, I got to protect the body. I've got to deliver this energy. But when we have chronically high levels of insulin, it's continually trying this energy. We're continually putting more energy in, and all of a sudden get to be like, I like to equate it as a nosy neighbor. You know, they come over when you first move in and you're like, oh, this is great. They're so friendly. I love that, you know, they're bringing me information and they maybe are bringing you whatever. But then they're like knocking at your door. They're prying into your life. They're getting, and you just are like, I don't want to deal with you anymore. I'm not opening the door. I maybe even hide and pretend that I'm not home. That's kind of how our cells feel about insulin when we have too much of it. So now something that was a good thing starts to become a negative thing, and the cells are like, not listening to you. So even when they need the insulin, they're not taking it up because they're being inundated all the time. Now we're going to get to the blood sugars, okay? So when this happens, we have the insulin to deliver it. So it starts delivering it to your storage unit called your fat cells. When that storage unit gets full, it's going to start to spill back out into your bloodstream. Now you have an A1C that's high. Now you have blood sugars that are high. You've been having a problem for a long time. It just now is showing up in your blood. So when you're having these blood sugar spikes and dips, what's really happening is you have too much insulin in your system all the time. So when you do eat, instead of insulin rising with the sugar, it's already high. So it takes that sugar and it delivers it out to every cell of the body, and it just like dumps it out as quickly as it can. The ones that will take it, it drops it there. The ones that won't, it puts it in the fat cells. But now you have a dip in blood sugar, and so it goes down maybe to around 60 because insulin is just like, I got to get rid of this to eat again. We're going to have more to deliver. I got to get rid of it. So now you have this blood sugar drop where you feel weak, you feel tired, you feel cold, you feel like you have brain fog, you just want to lay down and take a rest and pull a blanket up over you. Someone on dialysis, yes. And I'm so sorry to hear that someone is already on dialysis. It's been a mission. I spent half a weekend talking to people about this very thing. If you know someone who has stage 3 kidney disease, is prepping for dialysis, I have some people who have been able to reverse that type of damage. Now, when you go into dialysis, they do some on your kids. You cannot reverse that, but will it help you with the load you're putting on the kidneys so that you have to clear them out? Absolutely, it will. So addressing insulin resistance. But I have a number of people who've had kidney disease and dialysis who are doing the system to get the rest of their body healthy. There's nothing we can do for the kidneys once you're on dialysis. That's sad, but that's what it is. So if you know anybody who's headed down that path, share with them so they don't have to go through that. Riley, did that sound like you? And like when you get sick because you feel like you need energy, you have this gap, insulin is high, sugars are low, and your body's like, oh, we got to fill the gap. But it's not. And so the other thing is, some of you guys have been told that in order to fill that gap, what you should do is like drink some orange juice or have a high something to get your sugars back up. Okay. So when you have that go on, understand that what you're doing is shooting your sugars up high again. Now you're training your insulin to stay up there high. So, yeah, if you're in danger of passing out, you need to get some sugar in. Maybe not as much as they're telling you, but get your sugars back up, and be working with your doctor on that. Absolutely. But do you know, in time, by getting this under control, that issue gets under control, and then you no longer have the fatigue after you're done eating. You no longer have the breakthrough hunger after you're done eating. You no longer have those chills after you're done eating. It all starts to go away when the insulin gets controlled. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Lady V, you know what? If you guys go to my profile, not only is there a place to get the protocol, but there's a place where you have my WhatsApp information and you can text me and we can talk more in depth about all the stuff. And if I don't know the answers, I can go find them for you. And maybe I can find some answers from some people who are going through what you're going through, if you understand. So what we want to do, number one, high insulin, and outside of like some viral thing or genetic thing, insulin resistance causes a lot of this need for dialysis because we're putting a load on our kidneys. Our kidneys can't offlet salt, so they're processing harder. When we're eating high proteins, our kids are being put under stress because those proteins, you guys, proteins have been so misunderstood. We need proteins, but some people have taken it to the nth degree, right? And so when we're eating that much protein, what you've got to understand is once your body has utilized the protein that it can use right now for building blocks to feed those muscles that you hopefully just worked out with, then it's going to start excreting the rest of the protein that it can't use, or it's going to convert it into a substance and store it as fat. But when it starts eliminating it, it turns into a substance called urea that your kidneys have to process and push out. So too much sugar and too much protein can cause that problem. Now, I think most people are not getting in enough protein. What I'm saying is don't go over and go the opposite way. It's all about balance, right? It's all about finding that midline, you guys. Anytime you see somebody go like drastically crazy one way or the other, eventually you're about problems with it. So be careful of too much protein, especially if you're having dialysis. Hopefully your doctor's already talked to you. Yes, and fasting works. I do some fasting. Brian, I've told her to talk to her doctor. Amazing that we think the same on that, right? But I also want you guys to understand to talk to the right doctor, because some doctors, I love her and I would send anyone to her, but she didn't out. She didn't understand that. And she was like, and I worked for a doctor who specialized in hormones, a great deal for people, told me there was nothing she could ever do for me, that I was just destined to be extremely obese, be in pain, have brain fog, have adrenal fatigue, have all of this stuff, that there was nothing she could do for me. So I still think she's very valid, very brilliant doctor with hormones, but even those doctors don't understand this thing called insulin resistance and aren't addressing it. So there's a lot of science behind this. And by the way, there is a site called unicityscience.org that talks about the products that I do and how valid they are. So after working for doctors, after working with doctors, after working with nutritionists and gym bros who were writing my macros and my workouts, and nobody being able to help me with all of that stuff. My diabetes was getting worse. I still had not erectile dysfunction, PCOS, since my teens. Like they weren't able to fix that because nobody was looking at it from the side of what's wrong with our food and addressing the fact that we're not getting nutrition from our food. Riley, you're absolutely I'm so very thankful I could help you in any way this morning. Okay. So, and there are a few things, like even though Ansel Keys came out, over 60 years ago saying fat was bad, and they disproved it, food industry figured out that if they took fat out, which was what was giving our food flavor, and put sugar in, they could give flavor back, but the sugar doesn't keep us full like the fat did. So now they can give you food that tastes really good, but it's going to keep you coming back. So fats are not making you fat. Sugars are making you fat. I've done videos on that. I'll continue to do videos on that. But we need to understand that we've been bamboozled by the food industry. And by the way, whoever that was, I think he's gone by now. But I had 2 family members who worked for Big Pharma. And so I myself worked in medical clinics and dealt with pharmaceutical reps and saw the other side of what happens to patients when they're on all these medications. So what I'm talking about is a system that helps the insulin resistance without medications by addressing the root cause. So let's dive into that a little bit. If we know the food and eating too often and too much of the foods that convert into sugar too quickly is really the root of this problem, then we need to address that. Alarm, I forgot to shut it off. So what's really happening, why the food is converting to sugar so quickly, is stripped of things like proteins and enzymes and fiber. And there are doctors, I've got to go find his name. There was a doctor that was just talking about, I've heard many, but this one was talking about how the one nutrient that we are lacking the most, that's probably the most important to our health, and nobody's talking about it, is fiber. And he said that, so I do supplement because I don't want to have to worry about getting in the right kinds of fiber. He talked about how it takes a variety of fibers, that just psyllium husk isn't going to do it, all of that. But the amount of fiber that's in this, he said getting that in every day could increase your longevity by 10 to 15 years and increase your quality of life for that time as well, because it's affecting all of this, the insulin and how it's translating in your body. Because fiber is like, think of it like a prophylactic. So fiber, when you get it in before a meal and when it's attached to the foods, but it's been stripped from our foods, when it's attached to our foods, what really happens is it gets in your gut and it starts creating this matrix that helps food from delivering through your system too quickly and spiking that blood sugar. So now you're taking in relatively the same amount of carbohydrates, but this one packet of fiber reduces that blood sugar spike by 27%. So now when that blood sugar spike is reduced, so is the insulin spike. So that's important to know. So what we're doing on the protocol that I do is I have a tea in the morning. I'm looking for my packet because I throw them. You guys, I get all animated and I throw stuff. So I have a tea in the morning, which is what's in my mug right now. That tea shuts down my hunger, gives me mental clarity, gives me physical energy, can increase endurance and stamina during training by 10 to 13%. It helps me feel satiated because when I'm in a fasted state, it's helping me produce my own ketones, nourishing my gut, nourishing my brain. And now I make it through a morning fast of about 16 hours without even thinking about it. And that fast is important. Somebody mentioned fasting up here. I play with a lot of different models of fasting now that I'm 2 years in. But in the beginning, I just did 16-8. So I have my dinner about 6 p.m. Okay. That means at 6 a.m., I'm already 12 hours in. And then all I have to do is wait another 4 hours, about 10 a.m. But I would generally eat about noon. Easy, easy fast. When you drink the tea, you're not hungry because it's helping you burn fat for fuel. And when you're hungry, you just are being told that you need energy. Your body needs to get energy in. Well, when you shut down the insulin so that your body's not running on sugar, now it can run on fat that you have in your body, and it's a different cycle. So it's training your body that it doesn't have to live off of sugar all the time, that we can burn up some of this fat that we need to get rid of. And that's going to help us start to lose weight and get the insulin down so that we're not having all of the problems above. So tea in the morning, and then before I eat, I have fiber. And like I said, I supplement because I don't want to have to worry about the 7 different fibers that are soluble and insoluble and what foods they come from that are going to help me reduce that blood sugar spike. So I just put this in about this amount of water, drink it down 10 minutes before I eat, and then I do that twice at about noon and at 6 o'clock. And I don't snack in between. And that's it. That's how I reversed my insulin resistance, my diabetes, blood pressure, migraines, my acid reflux, my sleep apnea, my IBS, all of that by just addressing what's been stripped out of our food so that our bodies can deal with food more naturally. So it's actually really simple, guys. But it does take more than that one kind of fiber that you find in the canister in the store. They do like a little bit. But let's think about those fibers and let's talk about that. So I live a half an hour north of Baltimore. The airport is a couple of, 10, 15 minutes on the other side. So if I wake up and I want to get to the airport, am I going to hop on a bicycle and try to ride that and tote all my luggage to get down to the airport? Or am I going to get in my amazing car, throw the luggage in the back, and make that drive? So when you're doing that, those other kinds of fibers, basically what you're doing is hopping on the bicycle. Okay. What this is putting me in my amazing car that gets me there on time and without a lot of stress. So it's just a difference in how you want to go about it. Do you want to get better now, or do you want to just like hang out and hope that it works? So that's what the system is, and insulin resistance by allowing the blood sugar spikes to slow down. So any questions from anybody? weight loss, by the way, I'm going to talk about that this week. I'm going to be trying to get up some videos on inflammation and pain and how insulin resistance is causing a lot of that, like arthritis pain, inflammation in your joints, edema, swelling. But right, let's talk about weight loss. So when people, I don't push this as a weight loss protocol, although you'll lose weight. The more important thing is that we start to address what's really going on inside. So I feel like right now there's two camps in the weight loss industry. There's a couple, but we're going to talk about this one first. So there's people who are trying to go the more natural route, and there are people who are just like, just give me the medication and let me lose weight. But the people who are wanting the quick weight loss, you guys understand that when you do those medications for weight loss, there's a thing. So when you're losing weight, you're either losing fat or you're losing muscle. When you're doing those medications, so Allison, let's talk about that in just 1 second. Allison's type 1. So when you're doing those medications, it's causing you to lose more muscle to get to lose the fat. When you're doing something like this, it's actually been proven that you're maintaining muscle, if not starting to put back on natural muscle that you needed all along while you're losing your fat. So when you're gaining muscle and losing fat with the natural side, you're not going to see much change on the scale because your body composition is changing. On the medication side, you're going to see a rapid weight loss because you're losing fat and you're losing muscle. So of course the weight's going to go down on the scale. So do you want to lose muscle, lose the fat, or do you want to maintain your muscle, if not put on healthy tissue that your body needs to lose the fat and not see the difference on the scale as quickly? Some people see it quicker and some people don't. Be careful with weight loss and being focused on the scale is what I'm getting at. So now Allison says she has all of the things above. Good morning for Facebook anyway. And she's type 1, and that's absolutely right. So diabetes and this insulin resistance can affect both type 1 and type 2. So type 1 diabetics cannot produce their own insulin. So they have to inject insulin when they eat every time because their blood sugars are going to go up. It's going to land in their bloodstream and there's no insulin being produced. Remember, insulin is a transport hormone, so it's taking that energy to the cells. But what's happening with type 1 diabetics is we still have the same blood sugar spike, right? So you're not able to produce insulin, but you're still having this huge spike of blood sugars. So now the injection or the pump has to go off and deliver more insulin, just like we do with a pancreas that's working, to try and deliver that energy. But just like type 2 diabetics, that the body starts to become resistant to the insulin. So now you have brain fog, you start having aches and pains, you maybe have gout, you are having heart problems, you are having maybe kidney and liver problems, and you, like I said, you're gaining weight and you're fatigued all the time. And you're just continually putting insulin in to try and deal with the foods you're eating. And this system, by the way, has helped even type 1. Does it make it so that type 1 diabetics don't ever have to inject insulin? That would be super foolish of me to say. No, but it's reduced the load of quick-acting insulin that most insulin-resistant people or type 1 diabetic people have had to use. And it's reduced the load by, I've heard, up to 40% of their long-acting insulin. And it's allowed them to lose weight and have the brain fog go away and have the heart palpitations go away and all of that. So it's a great way to help even type 1 manage this thing called insulin resistance because it's dialing down how quickly the sugar is going into the system. And I have a number of, in fact, let's take a look here. So I have an 11-year-old, and this is going to hit both things. So an 11-year-old who is type 1, and so child with type 1 who has found success and has been managing his insulin resistance, his moods, and his brain fog. If she's consistent with it, yes. So it takes, you guys, it's not, and when I say consistent, I don't want people to feel like, oh my God, if I forget it one time, the world is going to end. That's not true either. So I'm getting these slides up. because on Facebook we have some questions. You have high blood pressure due to aldosterone. Yeah. So do you know insulin resistance affects your aldosterone? So, and you're gaining weight, but is your blood pressure really getting markedly better? Because I had blood pressure that went to 180 over 150 every single day. I'm not on any medications, none. And my blood pressure every morning, I wake up with it at about 112 over 74. So this type 1 youth, we're going to talk about him real quick. And then, because I want people to understand that this is not just about like us adults. When we have kids who are starting to suffer from this stuff, it's important to understand that we need to save our kids too. And I have an 11-year-old granddaughter who is type 2 diabetic, gaining weight, having mood problems, all of that. Her labs just came back last week and she is no longer diabetic. Her labs are all normal. So this is the type 1 11-year-old. He lost 35 pounds. He's almost completely off of his fast-acting insulin. He really doesn't use it, but for emergencies. And he's reduced his load of long-acting insulin, and he's doing better in school. He's kept his weight off. His moods are better. His behaviors at home are better. It just has changed his life, an 11-year-old. So if they can drink it, they can utilize it. It's just food. This is not a medication. It doesn't interfere with your medications or any of that. You work with your doctors as you're getting better to come off of the medications. I am stubborn. I hate medications. I pulled up my trash can about a month in and was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I threw away all my medications. Now, I worked for a doctor. I knew her personally. So I worked with my doctor and told her what happened. And then we just kept in contact. I didn't have any adverse reactions. That was me. Alice says, carry all your weight in the other great thing. Let's talk about that. 46 and weigh 170. So Linda, I hope that helps. Your daughter, and is your daughter type 2 or type 1? I'd love to know that. So let's go back to this. So the belly, let's find it. I got to find a slide here I want to show. I'm visual, guys. I'm very visual. So this takes me, I have to show stuff because that's the way I am. So there's a couple of things for everybody asking. We're going to get to the tummy in just a second. There's 5 main indicators that will tell you if you're insulin resistant without blood work. Okay. So those are, if you have hypertension, meaning your blood pressure is 130 over 80 or higher, you're likely insulin resistant because 95% of high blood pressure is linked to insulin resistance. If you have skin tags or those dark skin patches on your elbows, knees, under your arms, in your groin, around your ankles, on your neck, that's insulin resistance. PCOS, those are insulin resistance. I can link that up for you and tell you why. By the way, love, I've done series of videos on insulin resistance and blood pressure. If you go through my profile, you'll see a bunch of those. I'm really trying to get those all pulled together and do, tabs, so you guys can find them more easily when you have questions. Just haven't gotten there yet. All right, so the big belly. She's type 2. So this is definitely type 2 diabetes is end stage insulin resistance. So it starts out with high insulin, becomes insulin resistance, becomes prediabetes, and then becomes diabetes type 2 or diabetes type 3. Sometimes it even becomes LADA. So the LADA we'll talk about in a bit, but I want to talk about the big belly. So when we look at the big belly up top here, what's really happening is this is an indicator of insulin resistance. If you have that belly that's growing, whether you're overweight or whether you're thin, that's insulin resistance. It's your body cueing. There's a center in your brain called the hypothalamus, and it starts to cue the body to store more fat in that area that's laying underneath the muscle wall in your tummy. And now it's starting to choke out and crowd out your organs. And maybe it's not for you showing up as the subcutaneous fat, the jiggly stuff, but it eventually will. But if your tummy is poking out like that, that's one of the cues of insulin resistance. Now, The high triglycerides and low HDL, those are signs. There's a calculation I give, and we'll talk about that. If anybody wants to know that calculation, I will tell you. But if you're retaining water easily and you're feeling like you're having nerve type numbness in your hands, your feet, anywhere, that could be insulin resistance as well. As in the absence of like a spinal cord injury or something like that, you are probably suffering with insulin resistance because it causes the nerves to malfunction. Now you end up with this weird tingling and weakness. If you're constantly hungry, especially after you eat, if you're cold or tired after you eat, that's insulin resistance. Chronic fatigue, insulin and cortisol are like the best worst friends. And if your cortisol is off, it's going to increase your insulin. If your insulin is off, it's going to increase your cortisol. Now you're tired all the time. Okay, so then there's the body aches and pains. Fibromyalgia is closely linked to insulin resistance as well. Again, there are some spinal cord injuries that could be, genetic defects that could be causing it. But a majority of that random pain that you just can't explain is insulin resistance and tired all the time. So this one is really, you guys, I want you to understand that with the fatigue, we have to do two things with the fatigue. We have to get the insulin under control so that your body can understand what energy is and get energy to the body. We also have to be more cognizant of sleep and getting good sleep. But look, if you're insulin resistant, you're suffering with sleep apnea and all of that, how do you get good sleep? So for me, it started with getting my insulin resistance under control, and then my cortisol levels started getting better, and then me doing some sleep work to make sure that I'm getting to bed in time. I have blackout curtains in my bedroom. I try not to watch TV in my bedroom, all of that stuff so I could get more normal sleep. And now I've gone from a person who was waking up 60 times an hour to a person who only wakes up in the night to go use the restroom because I hydrate so much. And I'm not talking about the diabetic wake up every 2 hours. I'm talking about I got to go because I've never taught myself to stop drinking water before bed. I love my water. And so I'm always hydrating. And there's other reasons for that. So tired all of the time. So let's talk about that. When you have insulin resistance, it's not just happening in your body. It happens in your brain at the same time it happens in your body. So things are starting to go back in the body right along with the brain. And that means that your brain is no longer getting the energy it needs. Okay, so your body feels weak and tired because it's not getting the energy to the cells that it needs. Your brain is feeling weak and tired because it's definitely not getting the energy that it needs. And you're just exhausted all the time. But you're also having these sleep disturbances because it's messing with the centers in the brain. So now your brain doesn't want to shut off, or it's waking up at the wrong times, or it's cueing cortisol at the wrong times, or your blood pressure is racing, and that wakes you up because you have now blood pressure problems because of, there's like 5 different ways I talk about insulin resistance causes high blood pressure. But there's also this thing called sleep apnea. So what a lot of people don't address is that with sleep apnea, there's one thing that really can happen that people just don't address, and it's a it's a condition called fat tongue, and it's actually it's a real condition. So that same visceral fat that's causing the belly to be poked out and just sticking way out, that is also happening in your tongue because that's visceral fat there too. So as that visceral fat is building up in this area that your tummy's getting bigger, your tongue is also getting fatter, and now it's falling back into your throat when you sleep, or just obstructing because it's resting, so it's obstructing as you try to sleep, and now it's blocking off your airway where you're gasping for air. So that's one of the ways. But so you getting the insulin resistance under control and the sleep apnea under control can help with the cortisol, can help with the adrenal fatigue or extreme fatigue. So But one of the things is, alongside of getting the insulin resistance under control, you got to start working on your sleep habits. Guys, we're so plugged into electronics. I'm just as guilty as everybody else, right? So I know I get to bed at night and I'm like, I've been so busy. I haven't had time to slow down. And so I'm scrolling. And all of a sudden it's like 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, what the hell did I just do with 2 hours of my life? So so Brian on TikTok is saying he has diabetes and his wife has Hashimoto's. So let's talk about the ED. We'll talk about Hashimoto's. So when you have insulin resistance, what happens is as your body starts to become cellularly resistant to the insulin, and you start to put on fat, the fat cells in men start acting like ovaries in women. And so we got to go back a step further and say that our hormones, our sex hormones, all start out as androgens. So that means testosterone, right? But it gets converted into estrogens in men. That happens in your testes, and it regulates how much gets converted. And so in men, much less is getting converted into estrogen than in women. In women, that happens in our ovaries, and it happens through this whole cycle that creates our ovulation and our periods. And those ovaries are converting testosterone into estrogen. In women, this is where PCOS happens, because now those cues aren't happening. Now it's not transferring testosterone into estrogen, but we're talking about erectile dysfunction, right? So now you have this body-wide insulin resistance. You have excess fat cells being put on around your body as insulin is striving to store that energy. The fat cells act like those ovaries. So the fat cells say, I'm going to convert more testosterone into estrogen. Now you're starting to get man boobs and love handles. Your estrogen levels are going down, your erectile function is going down, and it's this spiral, right? And then you start feeling really bad about yourself. I know I have had a number of people in my life who suffer with that as well. So this is but so, and then James was on here earlier. He was having erectile dysfunction along with his weight. I have a guy, Jason, who's lost 160 pounds, but he's also gotten his testosterone levels in control and his weight in control. David was a school teacher whose erectile dysfunction was gone. His wife loved him very much, so thankfully their relationship survived, but he also had really low testosterone. And his doctor wanted to put him on therapy, and he said, well, let me just try this. So he did the system, and within 3 months, his testosterone levels were coming back, his erectile dysfunction was going away, and he felt better. Dr. Benjamin Bickman, who wrote the book Why We Get Sick and is one of the top metabolic scientists in the world, talks about it in this book. He says in a seminar I sat in with him and got to meet him, he said that he would call erectile dysfunction and PCOS metabolic infertility, because it all starts with the metabolism and insulin and then ends up in those areas. Now, Hashimoto's. I had Hashimoto's as well. So more and more doctors are talking about Hashimoto's being linked to gut inflammation. Okay. So they're saying what they perceive is that all autoimmune starts in the gut. So if the gut's unhealthy and you have inflammation and negative gut microbiota, then you're going to have autoimmune disorders. Hashimoto's is one. So that inflammation is leaking out and it's causing inflammation in the thyroid. And so now the body starts attacking the thyroid, thinking it's the problem, when it's actually inflammation that's come from the gut. When you have insulin resistance, you're creating more of that negative gut microbiota. And so your gut's inflamed, your immune system goes down. You probably are having more problems with autoimmune. So what I did to fix my insulin resistance was very, very simple. Instead of going to medications, and Dr. Jason Fung, who addresses and deals with diabetics now, that's all he does. He has a clinic in Toronto. He says you cannot address a dietary disorder, which is insulin resistance, with medications. Those medications aren't putting back what is being stripped out of your food. They're not fixing that. So what we're doing is I'm going to give you 6 simple tips, and then I'm going to show you the protocol that I use along with those tips. Okay. So the first thing you need to understand is fiber has been stripped from our food. It's making us sick. So we got to get fiber in first before we eat every time we eat. That's going to slow down the spike and slow down the need for insulin. So when we do that first, then you want to prioritize protein because most of us are not getting in enough protein. And here's a kicker. Protein spikes your insulin about half as much as carbohydrates do. And that means fruits, vegetables, all of that. So protein is also the most satiating out of all 3 macros. So fiber first to slow down the sugars that are going to get converted, then protein, building blocks and less spike insulin and more satiety. But protein always needs to be paired with fat. Fats don't spike the insulin. They're less satiating than proteins, more satiating than carbohydrates. So fiber, protein, healthy fats. And I'm not talking about those seed oils, cottonseed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. I'm talking about butter, ghee, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, and the animal fats that are naturally occurring on the meat you eat. So there, fiber, protein, fats. Then limit your carbs. Then you want to do some time-based eating or intermittent fasting. And then you want to move your body. Those are the 6 simple tips. Anybody can do those, okay? But if you really want to make it sustainable and easy, then I added in Colin. This is what changed my life when doctors and I had worked on everything and couldn't figure it out. Like I said, I had gym bros writing plans for me, treat me closely, and it still wasn't working. And they're like, I've never had anybody like you. I don't know what to do with you. What finally worked for me was I have a tea that I drink in the morning. And you guys, the reason I love the protocol is that this is it. This is my day. It packs in my purse when I go out for the day. Like when we did trick-or-treating on Saturday, this goes in my purse no matter what happens in the day. I mix it in some water, whether it's this water or like gas station water, and I'm good. I'm not worrying about keeping anything. I'm not worrying about mixing or carrying any of that. Tea in the morning gives me mental clarity and energy. It gives me physical energy. It can increase the stamina training by 10 to 30%. Like I said, it's portable. It's helping you burn fat for fuel. It's getting chlorogenic acids, a component that can cross the blood-brain barrier, in to help your brain. So part of it is the brain is insulin resistant, and that's causing a lot of more problems. We'll talk about that in a little bit if anybody cares. But that packet does all of that and does not break my fast. So instead of waking up and having cereal, I wake up and have this tea that it's allowing me to burn fat, allowing my ketones to build, allowing my HGH to build, allowing me to go through that where I'm in a fat burning state and not feel hunger and have all the energy that I could ever want, all of that. Then when I do eat about noon, I'm going to have this packet, which just helps me feel full before I eat. It slows down the delivery of carbs and fats into my system. So I stay fuller longer. I stay more satiated longer. And now I don't have those blood sugar spikes. It's been proven to reduce a blood sugar spike by about 27% with just one packet, which means that my insulin spike is going to be reduced as well. Now my body's not running on high insulin all the time, craving and needing sugar all the time. So sugar cravings and salt cravings have gone away, and I've lost over 50 pounds, and my energy is crazy. My brain fog is gone. So that's that. And you guys, just if you go to my profile, you can get the system there. I can show you where to get it if you would like. So these are scientifically designed products that are has 375 times the yerba mate in it as in any single bag of yerba mate tea. Plus it's been purified, so environmental toxins, pesticides, PAHs from roasting are removed. So now you're not getting toxicity from all of those, and you're not having to steep the teas and whatnot. You just mix it in water and drink it up. Just like that. See, having to do all of that work, I just do that. So I'm having to packets around of stuff that, like, I'm going to be traveling to Turkey next month, and do you think I want to try and carry bags of teas and figure out how to get hot water to steep the tea and all that. No, I don't, but I can have the tea hot or cold, and that's what I do. And it comes in a couple of different flavors. And this is not a tea. This is 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers, plant substances, vitamins, and minerals that are all designed together to do this work on metabolism and allow you to burn fat for fuel and keep your blood sugars down. So it's just, if you just go to my profile, you'll find it in there. When you go in there, guys, it'll say Michelle Fayon at the top. Make sure that it says that if you want to be connected to me and get coaching. I know I'm an Amazon shopper too, but you guys, I've learned from this company that I try to buy from the company because there are no authorized distributors on Amazon. So you also get a 90-day money back guarantee, you get a low price guarantee, you get a satisfaction guarantee is the 90, but you get this triple testing guarantee. When you buy on Amazon, eBay, Walmart, you're not getting any of those guarantees. You don't get a coach, and you're spending more for the product than you would if you just ordered it through someone who's authorized. Now, you get to choose between lemon and lemon ginger for the tea. Again, you can have those charcoal. I have my tea at any point in the day. It's not keeping me from sleeping. At first, I wouldn't have it past 4 p.m., but I have it regularly all day long. It's my drink of choice. Then the pre-meal drink right now comes in apple crush or in orange. The apple crush is limited, so I would probably just choose to get the apple crush, and because you can get the orange anytime. Then the last choice you're going to make is whether you want to buy a one-time or a subscription, or auto refill is what they call it. So it's not a subscription. It's not like you are having to buy it for 90 days. Let's talk about that. So I would do the auto refill because it's saving you $5 on the system right off the top, and the system is about $5 a day. But it's also saving you from shipping, so you're not paying that $9.99 in shipping, and you get a free hand mixer the first time. So you're going to save about $15 in your first order by putting it on auto refill. You can cancel that at any time and change it at any time. Honey. So when we look at carbohydrates in nature, they're always protected by something, and that something is generally fiber. But honey is protected by bees. We're not supposed to eat high amounts of honey. I get there's medicinal qualities to honey, and I use it from time to time as well. But during your fasting period especially, it is going to spike your insulin, so you cannot use it in the teas during your fasting period. It will break your fast and create that spike in insulin. Now, honey is one of those substances that goes more directly, I say straight into your bloodstream, because there's nothing to mediate that honey from being broken down and going into the bloodstream. So if you eat a pear has some fiber in it, so it's slowing down how quickly that sugar goes into your bloodstream. Plus, a pear has less sugar than honey. So berries, they have high fiber, lower sugar, so they're not going to have the effect on insulin that your honey would. If you were to have a CGM and you did a test like that, say one day you had a pear when you're in your fasting window, and see what the blood sugar spike looks like, you're going to see that it's much slower and lower than on a day when you have a tablespoon of honey. That's a long answer for a very short. Honey spikes your insulin. Okay. All right, Allison, do you have any other questions for me? Allison, have you been able to get the questions that you need answered? How's everybody doing over here? You're very welcome. You know what? Some of this was like, I was really resistant at first because, like, I love bananas, I love pineapple, I love watermelon, all very high on the glycemic scale, meaning they all turn into sugar too quickly. So I've had to set my love of pineapple aside and use it as a treat, as if I was having a piece of cake. Okay, so if I want pineapple, I know that that's a treat and that that's going to spike my insulin. So you know how I deal with that though? If I'm having something that's high in sugars, I'll just have 2 packs of this. This has doubles the spike of insulin is reduced by 13%, the blood sugars by 27% with one, but 2 packets of it will reduce your insulin spike by 27%. It over doubles the reduction of insulin needed in your body. So I do consider a prophylactic for my sugars. And it's like, look, in the end, we want life to be simple. We want it to be sustainable. We want to be able to do stuff that works with our diet and our body. And great, there's warriors out there who are like, just eat vegan or just eat carnivore or just do this or just do that. And most of us feel like, yeah, I can build up the willpower to do that for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month. And then it's like, oh, this is so hard. And I don't see the changes that I want. And then I like something happens, stress at work or the kids or the spouse or the drive to work or whatever. And now your emotions are high and you break that. And now you just feel like crud and you just give up. And the system helps with that because it's giving you the prophylactic. Do I want to use that all the time as they used to have cupcakes and candy and ice cream every day? No. But do I want you to understand that if you're out celebrating and you're with your family, like, it's Halloween time, so I saved my eating day for that day when I was out with my grandson. We took him trick or treating. I didn't partake in the sugar, but we went and had slices of pizza at this really great, real Italian place downtown here, and I have a picture of him eating a piece of pizza that's bigger than his head, and I just enjoyed my time with him. Yeah, love Kiki. So, and a lot of people do. Like, there's a person who started the system, and they were like, I've been feeling better energy, I've been feeling all this stuff, but I'm not losing weight, and my blood sugars aren't going down. So I called them and we talked, and I'm like, all right, so tell me about your day. They started going over their day, and what I realized was they're not getting in enough protein, and they're eating a ton of fruits, thinking that that's what's healthy for them. Fruits should be, in my opinion, should be addressed as a dessert. Okay, so fruits should come at the end of the meal after you've filled up with the protein and fats. And if you want them, then have them then. I'm not saying you can't have them, but don't make them your meal. So there's something interesting with fruits, and that is that the sugar source called fructose in fruits causes more work for the liver than other sugars do, converting in your body. So, and when kids are being fed fruit juice and tons of fruit, it's causing their excess load on their liver. And we've now been having reports of kids with non-alcoholic fatty liver as early as 6 years old. So understand that fruits can be healthy. Now, one of the doctors that I listened to who was talking about he was asked, and I believe it was Dr. Lee. Dr. Lee, he wrote this book called Food as Medicine. He was asked what are the 5 top foods he would eat or recommend, and I don't remember all of them. I know that, like, salmon, and if he said if not salmon, shrimp, but he said if you're going to eat fruit, even above berries, which those are the 2 fruits he would recommend, are berries and pears, because pears have that chlorogenic acid, and that's just a chemical compound naturally found in foods that can get through the blood-brain barrier and help with you feeling happy and just like that ooh ah feeling. So pears are high in that. They're high in fiber, and they're low glucose than other fruits. So all around a good fruit for you to eat. But even though things like watermelon have great components in them, they've been stripped of fiber. So unless you're putting fiber back in before you eat that watermelon, and to get to the health benefits that are in watermelon, you're getting a lot of sugar because all the fiber stripped out, and I are in a shell. Okay. Same thing with pineapple. Pineapple has bromelain, which is great for the body, but because it's been stripped of so much fiber as we've been modifying our foods and how they grow, it has a higher glycemic scale. So if I want to have pineapple to slow down the sugar that hits my system, I add fiber first. So pay attention to that with your fruits. I'm not saying don't eat them, but we don't need as much of them as we think. Okay. I hope that answers all of those questions. Any other questions about anything on this list before I hop off and go about making all the content for you guys? Look for content this week on inflammation, pain, so like arthritis and edema, all of those things. I break it down and bring content about that this week, and I will try to get my stuff organized so that those of you who were talking about high blood pressure can find those pieces more easily. But in the meantime, you guys go to my profile, check out the links there. There's all of the other channels I'm available on. And ways to get a hold of me, and a website that talks about the system. My website has my story and some other success stories, including a great success story on somebody who overcame lupus by just utilizing the system. So love Kiki. It just depends on what you're doing. I am not a vegan, so I am not the best for those proteins, but I'll tell you what, if you download 6 Simple Steps book, then you'll get a source of proteins, whether it's carnivore, whether it's more like Mediterranean where you're in the middle, where you're mixing, or whether you're vegetarian. If you're a meat eater, Dr. Bickman just put out another tweet a couple of days ago about how red meat is actually being shown to reduce the instance of insulin resistance and diabetes. So don't shy away from red meat. It's not the demon people have said. I particularly am not a huge red meat eater. It's just my preference. So I eat a lot of chicken. I try to get salmon in about once a week. I should be getting it in a couple of times a week. And then I just have red meat whenever I want it. I don't regulate it. Okay. But it's probably the best source of protein, according to the doctors like Dr. Bickman and Fung and some of these others. So I hope that helps. But download the ebook. It's free, guys, and then you'll get a list of the oils that I talked about. You'll also get that list of proteins. Okay. All right, you guys. We will talk to you later. I am probably just going to keep it to 8 in the morning. If I feel like I've gotten everything else done in the day and I want to hop on live, I might hop on live later. Thursdays I will be on live at 3, but just for now we're gonna switch up the time and start making it like 8 o'clock in the morning every morning. And then I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Bring me your questions, message me questions. I do answer. And let's get you guys healthier. Have a great day. Bye, love. And Allison, everybody over here, thank you and have a great day. We'll see you in the morning, okay? Thanks for interacting. I do appreciate you, and I hope you got the answers you needed.